Lesley Rogers is a counsellor. She's also an equine therapist. I've spoken with her about that as well. But it's the topic of narcissism that's got her blogging. Hi, Lesley.
Hello, Ryk. How are you?
Good, thanks. This is a term I sort of seem to hear a lot around these days. What got you looking at the narcissistic relationship?
As you said, I'm a counsellor, and I seem to have a lot of people that sort of pop up and say to me, having some problems with some really bad behaviour, and they'll start describing things, and sometimes they'll come up with the term, and sometimes they'll, I'll start seeing a pattern, so I'll sort of start asking some more questions, and my little red flags are popping up. I think probably because I've had some experience myself in my own life, so I started, really showing a particular interest. And I don't know if that's what happened. You'll have to excuse me. I've got a bit of a rotten cold, so I sound a bit croaky this morning.
That's so fine, Leslie. I mean, most of Hobart does have that flu at the moment. Is this just a way of describing a not very nice yet compellingly interesting man? Is that what a narcissist is?
That's an interesting way of putting it. Yeah, it can be that way. The thing is, I'm not a psychiatrist, so I don't really talk about narcissistic personality disorder. And I think the thing to understand, which a lot of people don't understand, is that narcissism is on a continuum. So we all have sort of narcissistic tendencies, and so I usually tend to talk about narcissistic traits rather than personality disorder. So on that continuum at one end, you'd have, at the far end, like at the top end, you've got the worst kind of narcissism. And yes, compelling, yes, charming, yes, amazing when you first meet these people. So the people that are the most extreme end, but can get very, very unpleasant, very nasty behaviour.
So what are the behaviours?
Sorry again?
What are those behaviours, Lesley?
So you have, I think the most important thing that you'll see, I mean, obviously you're not going to see straight away. When you first meet somebody who's highly narcissistic, they're just going to seem amazing. So if you think about them, if it's somebody you're in potentially going to be in a romantic relationship with, they'll seem like somebody that is everything you've ever wanted. There'll be a very early talking about being the most amazing person they've ever met, that they're their soulmate, that they want to be married. So that will be talked about really quickly, and they will seem like they're everything you've ever needed in your life. But very quickly, things will start to happen which just don't seem to make any sense. That there's a lot of there'll be humiliation, there'll be putting down, there'll be misunderstandings, there'll be, why are you suddenly treating me like this? So there's very low empathy. Narcissists are very intuitive about the sorts of things you care about, so they can really direct the hurtful things they do. There's dishonesty. They have a sense of grandiosity. So grandiosity means that they expect to be recognised as being superior, even while there may not be any reasons for that. There may not be sort of anything that gives evidence for that. I'm trying to think about a few more.
So the question then is, why do we end up in relationships with these people all the time? Is it a bit like people who buy into investment schemes that are obviously dodgy, but part of you just hopes it is this good?
Well, I think early on it's just so amazing. Like that it will feel as though this person is just everything you've ever wanted. So it can be quite very addictive. And then as that behaviour changes, it doesn't change instantly. I think what happens to start with. So if you think of when narcissists will have what I call the outer circle and the inner circle. So the outer circle are the people that will only see the amazing behaviour. So they'll see a charming, helpful, wonderful, lovely human being that just, that isn't hurtful or harmful. So that's the people in the outer circle. That's what you'll be inflicted to when you first know them. When you become part of the inner circle, so you then become, you've either committed in some way, you've got married or you've moved in together or you're fully in love, something that means that you've really made a full commitment. That's when their behaviour changes. As I say, you get this sense of entitlement. So it doesn't matter what it is you're giving. The sense is, well, as you should. That's something I deserve. So then there's this sort of this feeling of what's happened. Where's that? person gone that I was with, and people that, you know, that are lower in the narcissistic scale, if you like, will start looking for, what did I do? Like, what can I change? I must be doing something wrong here. Like, this is not who you are. And so there's a confusion. And then you'll get another little bit of really nice behavior. So you think, oh, you know, we're back, you know, so things are working again. So for normal people, they struggle really hard to try and get back to that really good feeling. And that's sort of very addictive, at switching from being incredibly loved to being you know, put in the dog's house. It's very addictive because it changes so quickly. So that's what keeps people hooked. And the other thing is that, it's referred to as sort of narcissistic supply. So what the narcissist is looking for is for you to actually feed their ego, for you to make them feel good, for you to keep telling them how amazing you are. And so when they feel like you're slipping, they'll turn it back on again. So, you know, just when you think, you know, this has been really awful and so you'll move away, then the nice behaviour starts again. And it's, you know, people do get very addicted to that.
So, Lesley, if someone's listening to this and it's resonating, I mean, can you change that behaviour in a person like that?
It depends how far up the narcissistic scale you are. So what's happened with somebody who's highly narcissistic is they have what's called an ideal self. So instead of being who they are, in their genuine personality, the real person, they actually, although this is not really conscious, they see that as very flawed. So they've created what you know they would present as a really ideal self, an amazing person. So for them to recognise they need to change something means they're not so high up the narcissistic scale. If they were, they don't need to change anything because they're amazing. So it makes it really difficult. You have cases where someone can have counselling for a long time. Normally it's been the partner that has sort of insisted. And even the counsellor or psychologist will think there's nothing wrong. This is just an amazing human being. So you probably can't teach them empathy. If they're really high up the narcissistic scale, you probably can't teach them to feel empathy, but they can learn that this is where people would feel empathy and this would be the right thing to do. But to do that, they've got to recognise they're not doing it right in the first place, and they really have trouble recognising that. They really do think they're amazing. So it doesn't all go well. It also gets worse as you get older, unfortunately.
Really?
Whereas some of their personality disorders do actually taper off a bit, like, say, for example, borderline. Narcissism gets worse because the bigger the gap between what you're really able to do and the ideal self in your head, the more you get this thing called narcissistic rage.
Yeah. Lesley, I've got to let you go because it's nearly time for the weather, but if people want to follow your blog, where do they find you?
Actually, I haven't really got a blog. I've just been putting it on LinkedIn.
Okay, well, LinkedIn. There you go.
Yeah,
Lesley Rogers,
LinkedIn.
Look her up, full Goddard. And finally, just one question.
Yes.
If you can give this a one-word answer.
Yes.
Yeah. All narcissists men?
Oh, no, not at all.
No?
But, no.
Okay. I'm very curious about it. I've just heard lots of women saying, you know, I'm a narcissist, a narcissist, a narcissist. I've never heard a man say it of a woman.
Oh, I do counsel men that are being inflicted by bad behaviour from women too. Okay. Thanks, Ryk.
Great to talk to you this morning. Lesley Rogers there. If you're recognising yourself in that or things in your own life, then go and chat to someone, chat to a professional. Find out more about it. Self-knowledge. It's always interesting.